But of course, you know, today we had the saddest news about the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. And she was an inspiring presence to be around. And I've been around her, and she was fantastic. And she led the country through some of our greatest and darkest moments with grace, decency, and a genuine caring warmth. I'm, 75, she's been with me all my life. And I feel very sad that she won't be with me anymore. But I'm glad she's at peace, and I'm glad she's at rest. And she deserves it. She's worked bloody hard. I send my love to her family and her loved ones, and she will be missed. But her spirit lives on, and we celebrate her life tonight with music, okay?
Join me in a round of applause for 70 years of service.
She was the last living person in British public life to have served in uniform in the Second World War. She was the first female member of the royal family in 1,000 years to serve full-time in the armed forces. And I remember her innocent joy more than 10 years ago after the opening ceremony of the London Olympics, when I told her that the leader of a friendly Middle Eastern country seemed actually to believe that she had jumped out of a helicopter in a pink dress and parachuted into the stadium. But above all, to Elizabeth the Great, who worked so hard for the good of her country, not just now, but for generations to come. That is why we mourn her so deeply. And it is in the depths of our grief that we understand why we loved her so much.
I remember one picnic at Balmoral which was taking place in one of the bothes on the estate. The hampers came from the castle and we all mucked in to put the food and drink out on the table. I picked up some cheese, put it on a plate and was transferring it to the table. The cheese fell on the floor. I had a split-second decision to make. I picked up the cheese, put it on the plate and put it on the table. And I turned round to see that my every move had been watched very carefully by Her Majesty the Queen. I looked at her, she looked at me, and she just smiled. And the cheese remained on the table.
The Queen constantly showed us the meaning of life. She was joyful, she was humorous, life was full. Even in the Annus Horribilis, as she so perfectly summed up the most difficult year possibly of her reign. Her life was full, but she never, even in bad moments, lost hope. I obviously spoke to her after the death of the Duke of Edinburgh and spent some time with her. And there was just a solidity of hope in her life. That's the second word. Abundance and hope. They are still there.
It is with great sorrow that the French people have learned of the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Her wisdom and empathy have helped us all to steer a path through the historic ups and downs of the last 7 decades. With her passing, we all feel an emptiness. Elizabeth II mastered our language, loved our culture, and touched our hearts. From her coronation on, she knew and spoke with all of our presidents. No other country had the privilege of welcoming her as many times as we did. To you, she was your queen. To us, she was the queen.
Der Tod der britischen Königin Elisabeth II. Bewegt und berührt uns alle. Weltweit ist Trauer und große Anteilnahme zu spüren. Die Kerzen und Blumen vor dem Buckingham Palace in London, aber auch vor der britischen Botschaft in Berlin belegen, welchen Platz Elisabeth II. Im Herzen so vieler Bürgerinnen und Bürger innehatte. Auch hier in Deutschland. Großbritannien hat seine Königin verloren, die Welt eine Jahrhundertfigur. Ihre Regentschaft erstreckte sich über mehr als 70 Jahre, eine halbe Ewigkeit.
またエリザベス2世女王陛下は昭和50年にご訪日されるなど特に日英関係の強化に大いに貢献をされました。激動の世界情勢において英国を導いたエリザベス2世女王陛下の崩御は英国民のみならず国際社会にとって大きな損失です。
When Bill was president, when I was Secretary of State, and have a number of conversations with her. She was a curious, highly intelligent person who really wanted to learn what you knew and how it would fit into the world. And one of the highlights of my career was being able to spend the night at Buckingham Palace during a state visit, during President Obama's state visit, and talking with her about her gardens and walking through those gardens. It was an incredible experience.
I just stopped by the British Embassy to sign the condolence book in her honor. I had the opportunity to meet her before she passed, and she was an incredibly gracious and decent woman. And the thoughts and prayers of the American people are with the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth in their grief.